Hi, everybody. Welcome to New Jersey Revolution Radio Live. It's Wednesday night. My name is Brian Powers. I am here. Diane is not here this week. She is off doing activist work, having a meeting. So I'm going to take the helm just a little bit. Thankfully, I'm real grateful that my comrade Tom Violet, who live streams regularly here, is on NJR, is with us tonight. How are you, Tom? Good to see you. Cool, man. And of course, our main guest tonight will be Christian Perez, who's been on New Jersey Revolution Radio. I think this may be your fourth or fifth.
Fourth or fifth.
It's been
fourth or fifth.
Been a lot of experience.
At least 3 good ones, 1 or 2 bad ones.
That's true. I think so. It takes us a couple of practice shots before we get it right here at New Jersey Revolution Radio. But I think we're starting to get it right more often than not. And I want to first start off by thanking those of you that have contributed to New Jersey Revolution Radio. There have been a lot of donations coming in lately, and it's really helping our show. You can see some of the fancy equipment. The studio is growing. Our ability to get places is growing. We're able to give a couple of people maybe a little gas money here and there now, but it's not regular, and it's not quite enough to really reach that vision. I want to especially thank Tom Violet over here, the Petroviches, and the Monmouth County Greens got together. And this is kind of how it works. If you don't have a lot of money, that's fine. We'll take small dollar donations. But this was really cool, and I think it's a story to talk about how you can support us, even without money sometimes. They had a piece of equipment they could donate, so they gave a piece of equipment, and we kind of went back and forth a little bit on a financial donation. They got some people together. They said, what do you want us to buy for you? And we went back and forth, and we found something that their group could afford on their budget and helped us out. Bought us a microphone that goes on the live streaming gear that hopefully is going to really improve the quality of audio on our live streams. And I'd love to have a few more of those. I'd love to gear up Diane and Tom and a number of live streamers and Cora, who live stream around the state. So, these are the kinds of things we do with your donations, and it doesn't have to be a financial contribution. It can be a piece of audio or visual equipment. So give us a email, info@njrevolutionradio.com, if you have any questions about giving to us. Thank you very much. All right. So Tom, you were with us at this event, I guess the city council meeting last night.
Right.
I have a few thoughts on it, as well as a comment from a hell of an activist, a young man we both know, Kason Little. But I'd like to hear your impression, I guess, walking away from that night, hearing the community speak out again at a city council meeting again.
I made the trip. It was about an hour and a half, but I felt compelled to be there because, this is a case that you almost think is fiction, but in fact it's truth, that we had an individual who was murdered in police custody. And on Monday, after 8 months, they came out with a autopsy that was an insult to anyone with a thinking brain cell, that specifically that Jameek had died from a drug overdose from baking soda, when in fact he live streamed himself.
Bath salts, which is a drug. It's a
right.
drug. Right.
I did hear one report did say baking soda, though.
Did
it?
Yeah, it actually did. Yeah.
Okay.
But regardless, the fact of the matter is
solid reporting journalism here in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Not New Jersey Revolution Radio.
I may have made some mistakes, but I've never called baking soda.
Let's put the coverages aside for a second. But so he live streamed himself, and you could see his face clearly, and then you could see his face afterwards that he looked like a truck ran over him, and he had multiple injuries. So that was a fraud. So the city council meeting was an opportunity for people to speak directly to the council, and the mayor happened to be there too. It was very nice of him to show up to his city. And for me, Brian, sitting there, it felt like it was in the 1960s. Zelly Thomas, one of the activists who spoke, started off with the statement that I believe Martin Luther King had made, that we have 2 Americas. And I sat there, obviously as a white person, and said, this is the case. And that's part of the reason I was there, is that white people look like myself, have an obligation to show up to things like this and fight for people who are still on the receiving end of such brutal police brutality. And
it's I think the I've tried not to hold on a second. There we go. I've tried not to make any assumptions, and I think me and Chris are going to talk a little bit more about this when we get into the conspiracy theory talk. But I think the main problem for me, in coming from outside the community and not knowing the community and just kind of learning about this particular situation, while I'm familiar with police brutality and the statistics across the state of New Jersey, which are appalling. We all know that the use of force report that came out probably over a year ago now at this point, revealing so much racial discrimination and use of police brutality. This case just highlights that for me, and it's one that I just became attached to through, comrades. But the pain of it in following the story since January is not having answers, right, or not having good answers. So it's not about being able to say, well, the police are bad and the city council. We don't know name. We don't know who's responsible still, and they're not. And they've had 7 months to be forthcoming about it, and they're just thinking. And you could tell that the obvious strategy here is to just wait it out, and the pain isn't going away for that family.
Yeah, and that was part of the message of the people speaking to the council last night, was that we're not going away, that this autopsy report is not the end of it, that they're going to keep going until they find justice. And however the chips may fall, Brian, but like you said, there's so many things unanswered. I have my own ideas about it, but ultimately that was the message, and it's just it's tragic, and to see it firsthand sitting there, it was just surreal almost.
Many comrades live stream this, so whether you follow Zelly Thomas on Facebook, whether you follow New Jersey Revolution Radio, I know there's a number of family members that stream this stuff. So I was there streaming, and I grabbed the corner right in front of the mayor. I sat about 3 feet away from this guy. Right. And, I think there's been a lot of reading into the mayor's facial expressions during this. And I've tried to stay away from that, even though I did focus a little bit on that. But I was watching him. I don't want to read into the guy's mind. Okay. And I know, maybe he is in a position where he can't do nothing. We don't know it. But we don't know it. And that's where the pain is coming from, the lack of information, the lack of transparency. But I don't think, in his responses, and in many of the city council's responses, you just want to grab them and say, what don't you get about empathy? They're representative of a community, and I feel pain from the community. I don't feel any pain from them, and I don't feel any suffering, like any want to do something about the pain. It doesn't feel good. And so that's what I come out with. We did, you hate to bring up good points about this, but we have both made contact, and I don't know if you knew Kason Little before this Jameek Lowry kind of stuff, but
no.
So I met him through this, right, and coming to gave him a ride yesterday. He's going to be on the show next week, so if you get a chance to tune into New Jersey Revolution Radio next week at 8 p.m., not only will Diane Moxley be back in the studio, but Kason's going to join us.
Oh, absolutely. I won't miss it.
Yeah, he's fantastic. This young man is a brilliant mind and just very well studied and just inspirational, man. He's one of these guys you hang out with, and man, I feel like I talked to somebody who's been doing activism for 100 years. He's 19 years old.
Well, I had the opportunity to give him a ride to a Newark Water Coalition meeting. And 19 years old. I mean, forget about the age, right? I mean, he's got such savvy and composure.
But I was such a dumbass when I was 19.
Oh,
I mean, Jesus Christ.
I couldn't have stood in front of that council and called them out and spoke truth like that.
It's a tribute. It's a tribute to him and the community of Elizabeth for doing such a fine job. He's born and raised in Elizabeth. He wrote a statement on Facebook. I asked him if I could read it today because I think it's reflective of the commitment that many of us, Tom, I know I don't want to speak for you, but I know you made this kind of commitment. We have made this kind of commitment here on New Jersey Revolution Radio that we're going to speak his name until the family says stop. The only thing that's going to stop me from advocating for Jameek Lowry is if the family says we're no longer interested in your help for whatever reason. It's the only thing that I'm going to stop. Right. And this is the pledge that Kason made, and this is the pledge I'm sure that many, many of us would commit to if it was a sign-on letter, which I suggested to him, by the way. But it says, to the Lowry family, I have made a pledge and commitment to be by your side and ride this justice train till the end until you receive answers pertaining to the death of Jameek. While you are hurting and still remain fresh in this grieving season, know that you have many activists that stand behind you to lift you up and provide strength when you're weak. His death will not be in vain. I speak light and truth into the universe now. Hold on a little while longer. Answers that you've been fighting for and waiting are well on its way. And he does go on with some other stuff, and I'll send you to Kason Little's Facebook page or to my personal Facebook page where I shared it. But make sure if you're out there in the world, hook up with Kason Little, find him on Facebook, find his campaign. I think he's running for school board.
School board, yeah.
I'm not, I'm not making a political endorsement. I'm just saying, check this kid out. Check this kid out. He's great.
Yeah, he's actually the youngest candidate in New Jersey to ever run for the school board.
Young Larry Ham. Right. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, a great activist by the name of Larry Ham I think he was ran at 17 for school board. So I think that's where he got his shot. Great work by the activists around this tragedy. But for the family, of course, our heart goes out to them. And once again, every week here on New Jersey Revolution Radio Live, we will be saying his name and reminding you that the family still has not received justice. More as and our usual contacts. Tom, you're also something you're involved in. You're involved in everything. Extinction Rebellion is in New Jersey, and they're organizing. Yeah. And our friend Diane has been on the show every week, so she wants to make sure that everybody knows that they can go to Extinction Rebellion New Jersey or Extinction Rebellion New York, which are all kind of the same group organizers, right?
Well,
go ahead.
Yes and no.
Tell us about Extinction Rebellion.
So I got involved with XR, actually involved in January 26th, our action in New York, where a lot of people probably know it started off in front of the Plaza Hotel of 500 plus people. And then we broke off and marched down Fifth Avenue. And there was a gentleman who climbed Statue of Prometheus in the Rockefeller Center skating rink. And there was folks who laid down and formed the symbol of XR on the ice while the oblivious New Yorkers skated around them. And there were some people who did die-ins, and I was live streaming from New Jersey Revolution Radio, and all the police were kind of standing by looking smug. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to them, Diane and other activists were unfurling a banner across Fifth Avenue in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral and shut down traffic for 20 minutes. So that was quite inspiring. And since then, New York, XR New York has had 3 or 4 other events, increasingly bigger events, more people arrested. But we wanted to really get New Jersey going. And we've had a couple of meetings, and we have a good core of people, and we have our first action. I don't know if you want to segue into that, but we have our first action scheduled. We were actually asked by the Newark Water Coalition to participate with them in an action, which is actually Monday, August 26th. It coincides with the VMAs that are in Newark at Prudential Center. So it's an opportunity for us to work with Newark Water Coalition. XR feels there's no better type of activity that we can engage in to support Newark and its people. The difference with XR in the United States versus the original XR in Britain and Europe and other places is we have a 4th demand, which states that we must show equity and equality to indigenous people, to people of color, people who have traditionally and historically been on the short end of the stick when it comes to things that have to do with the energy crisis, climate emergency. So this absolutely ties into that, and we're committed to continuing this type of work. So we're really excited about this.
Yeah, I want to thank you for all your hard work. Of course, we don't have anything if we don't have a planet. So yeah. It does help to fight this battle. So plug into XR Rebellion, plug into this Newark Water Coalition. Our comrade Anthony Diaz, of course,
right.
That thing blew up really quick.
Yes.
And that is a wonderful, not a wonderful thing to see. But if you look back in our archives, not long ago, maybe within the last couple of months, he was on Wine, Women, and Revolution with Heather. And, he was kind of down. He was like, it's not really, there's not a lot of action here. There's still problems. But he was frustrated that what the city had done, and he was the Paul Revere here. He was saying
right.
What the city did was not sufficient. There's still problems in the water and they're not being addressed. And lo and behold, somebody, the young woman from Detroit who found out the water was bad in Detroit, right?
Right.
Came over here, said the water's just as bad here, and now it's nationwide news. And you got Phil Murphy.
Hand out expired water.
Phil,
and I took the time to print out the actual injunction that the National Resource Defense Council brought in front of Newark that named Mayor Baraka, that named the head of the Newark Water Authority. I don't remember his name, and also McCabe, who was the head of New Jersey DEP. And in that, it said that they required them to distribute water door to door.
Yes, that's what they want.
Door to door.
That's what they want.
But that's not what they're doing. They picked 4 locations to hand out water. And you know what happens? There's poor people who cannot afford to even get to a location, or they're not able. A grandmother's watching the child.
Right?
She can't leave. I mean, there's just so many.
Who has time to go get a fucking? I got 5 kids. You know how many goddamn trips to get bottled water it would take?
It's just ludicrous, and it's not an answer. And but with and I think Anthony's, he fought the fight and he didn't give up. And
yeah, he did, man.
I really admire him for that.
Thank you, Anthony
Another young
Diaz.
guy.
Thank you, Anthony Diaz. Not Phil Murphy.
No,
not Phil
they're both clowns. Am I supposed to play your part? They're both clowns.
Yeah.
I can't do you, but can I do the
I want to thank our live streamer for that clip of this guy thanking Phil Murphy. I'll be using this for years to come.
Thank you so much.
And this is a mayor a year ago, in April, I believe, claimed that there was no crisis in Newark.
No,
and that
he drinks the water.
The woman who was running against him for mayor was just using it as a political stunt. This is a guy who's totally clueless. And Murphy, he's just as clueless. Smiling Phil.
You think
people are waking up, man?
He's disingenuous.
Huh?
Do you think he's disingenuous, or you think it's? I mean, that's the question for me as somebody who talks about conspiracy. I mean, some people are obviously disingenuous. Some people are clueless.
I called it before he took office.
Yeah.
He's from Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, I remember.
Exactly.
You remember?
Did you
Brian,
expect Eugene Debs?
We were at we were in an event in Jersey City by I think Grove Street Path Station, and Brian nudged me and said, "Hey, you want to say something to the Green Party?" Lex put me on a spot. Well, I got up there and I basically trashed Phil Murphy, who was running for governor. So here's another Goldman Sachs guy. Well, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
and we've gotten what we paid for.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Or he's gotten what he paid for.
Yeah, well.
It's true. It's true. As far as I can see, he's another corporate bobblehead. As far as I can see, he's just a corporate bobblehead he said all kinds of stuff during the campaign. Ain't none of it coming true. And he's going to wind up like Corzine, and we're going to wind up with another Chris Christie.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Stroke of a pen, he can stop 14 pipelines now in New Jersey. What's his answer? Well, it's going to affect jobs. I don't know. I don't know what his answer is.
But then why did he promise it on the campaign trail?
Yeah.
That's the game they play.
It's not a game, though. Yeah, and I get that. Like, it is the game they play. No.
It's a game.
It is the game they play.
It's not a game because it's people's lives.
It is a game to them.
It is a game.
I think it is a game today. You're right. I mean, it's not. I wasn't going to trash you for making that statement, but I think I think
it's not a game for me. It's not a game for like my cousin who gets stopped and frisked. It's not a game for me, but it's a game for Phil Murphy. For him, it's throw some money around.
They just say whatever, man. They just say whatever.
Maybe he's in a cabinet position. Who knows?
And then even they have and Phil Murphy, and this is not just Phil Murphy. We're going to pick on Phil Murphy because I don't like him. But I mean, I remember during his campaign he had surrogates, and many people will have surrogates go out and go down. I was at the People's Organization for POP, People's Organization for Progress meeting. Phil, they always let whoever's campaigning, they let you know today, Republican, Democrat, they don't care. They're great over there, and you get a lot of political education at these meetings because you see a lot of different candidates. And Phil Murphy wasn't there himself, but his surrogate. I remember him saying, if somebody gets murdered by the police, I'll be your best friend, and I'll have the federal. I'll get to the FBI on it as a case that needs to be investigated as violation of civil rights and all kinds of stuff. And where is he on Jamaica?
Where's he for Jamaica? Yeah.
Where's he for Jamaica? And then Jamaica is the story we're real following, but there are police murders up and down this state.
Yeah. And
none of them make the regular media. I don't hear him speak out about any of them. I mean, I'm pleading for Jameek here personally as kind of like our charge, but Jesus Christ. I mean, there are grieving families all over the state due to police murder. Where's the speech? Where's the policy? Where's something?
One of the first times I was on the show with Diane, I brought up something. I was watching the other day. I figured I should bring it up now, is George W. Bush, right? Like I came of age politically during the time that George W. Bush was president. Didn't like the guy. The guy was a clown and all that. I think in 8 years of office, the guy said one thing I agree with, right? He was at an NCAA, an NAACP meeting, and it was awkward because Bush was awkward, but he told them, and I believe him, he said, look, the Democrats take your votes for granted. And they do.
Yeah.
Because they know that on the other side is, whatever the Republicans are offering Trump, and it's worse. And they hold us hostage. They hold progressives hostage. They hold the state hostage, and that's the problem.
The lesser of two evils.
Yeah, but people have no sense of history either, because it's the Republican Party who voted to abolish slavery. It wasn't the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
You know,
it's twisted.
It was a different party. It was a different party.
They jump, but that's the idea.
Yeah.
Democrats don't want to admit that, and I think it's an overused talking point by conservatives. But ultimately, it is the truth.
I still see plenty of plenty of '60s style racism in the Democratic Party, and I'm not going to name anybody like Joe Biden, who says really dumb racist shit all the fucking time.
My God.
And here's a guy who the media is trying to make a front runner. In 2008, it's not 1962 anymore. Why are they propping up this civil rights resisting fossil?
Yeah.
For this is again. So we can say, the politics have changed, and they have.
Well,
I get there's a progressive wing of the Democratic Party. I'll acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But for the love of God, the candidate they're making the most out of is just as racist as the Southern Democrats back in the 60s.
He's Bull Connor. I mean,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
For you young folks, that was a guy who set the dogs on Martin Luther King in I forget which town. Was it Birmingham?
I think it was Birmingham.
It was Birmingham. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me as a young folk what that was.
Yes,
thank you.
Absolutely. Both of
you. Good stuff, man. So we do have to run a little bit of a segment plug here, because of course, as many of you know, we're involved in a lot of stuff. One of those things is we support One People's Project. One People's Project is run by Darrell Lamont Jenkins. It is a doxing organization. They find Nazis, they identify them, and they make their lives miserable. I want to encourage everybody to go to onepeoplesproject.com or idavox.com, the media arm of One People's Project, and check out Darrell's work. We are in partnership. They are a partnering organization with New Jersey Revolution Radio, and we're running a fundraiser at Wooden Shoe Books and Records in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's going to be August 21st. Is that right? I don't know. Everybody's going to look at Facebook, right? Let's find out. Let me look at Facebook before we go. But we are running a fundraiser. Darrell himself will be there. You do not need to pay anything to come into this fundraiser. Of course, we're trying to be a fundraiser, so we'd appreciate it if you throw a little money in the hat, but you don't have to. It is free to attend. Come on in, meet Darrell, listen to a presentation. He'll talk about his new movie, Skin, which was debuted in theaters July 26th and is out now, as well as his film Alt-Right, Age of Rage, which is a documentary about his work focusing on the tragic events in Charlottesville, which just celebrated, unfortunately, its 2-year anniversary, the murder of Heather Heyer down there. But we're up to speed with all this events. So if you get a chance to come to the fundraiser, great. If you get a chance to make a donation to Idavox or One People's Project, visit them on the web. You can find more information on our Facebook page as well. Thank you for that brief plug. We are back now to the regular show. And our main guest tonight is a guy we were just talking a little bit before the show started. Christian Perez is a conspiracy theory expert. If I was a judge and qualifying you as a conspiracy theory expert, do you think you would meet that standard?
Yeah, I feel like I could.
Okay.
I feel like if given enough time to prepare, I think I could talk about almost anything.
Yeah.
As long as I'm interested in them. Don't ask me to fix your car or combinations to safes. I'm not going to do that. But with hard work and it's within my realm, I think I could do it. Yeah, if need be.
I think it's it's important work, and I think especially on the political left where conspiracy theories fester, as well as the political
Absolutely.
right, and it does seem on. And I don't want to call my politics extreme. I think my politics are common sense.
No, I don't think extreme is a good word to describe it. I think your politics are probably the mainstream.
Oh God, I wish.
But okay. But I mean, in terms of healthcare, in terms of racial equality, in terms of feminism, I think most Americans do feel that way. In some sense, there's a good.
You have
chunk
way
that
too much faith in the American public.
No polls actually back that up.
Yeah, the polls say one thing, politicians say another. Politicians are going to follow their donors; they're not going to follow the polls. Bernie Sanders was on Joe Rogan and he kicked butt.
I've never listened to Joe Rogan's
podcast. Neither do I. He platforms meatheads, but
he does. Okay. When you say meatheads, can you be like Proud Boys?
I'm sorry, Proud Boys, Milo Yiannopoulos.
Really?
He had Jordan Peterson. He's had Sam Harris. Popular? He's very popular. He's very popular. I mean, I think he's a great fight commentator, but I think he's a crappy comedian, and I think he's an even worse commentator, like politics commentator. I love MMA. I'd love to see him break down fights, but if he's not breaking down fights, I really don't care.
No, I don't want to see that kind of politics here.
Yeah,
so.
it's not.
I didn't know. I actually honestly did not know his politics. Yeah. I knew he's into weed.
He's into weed, but that's like it. That's like his foot in the door. Like, you know how libertarians?
Oh, well, yeah, I'm learning a lot about that.
Okay,
I'm learning.
Like they smoke weed, and that's cool, but they also have weird ideas about like age of consent laws, and they want to get rid of government, but they want business to be running things. It's a whole weird.
It's anarcho-capitalism. That's what it is. It's essentially the purebred version of libertarian.
Yeah.
Although I am
saying anarcho-capitalism because that makes them seem cooler than they are. They're just libertarians.
I am finding
they're not that cool.
Yeah, I am finding through our work in these cannabis forums. We're doing these cannabis forums around the state and working with New Jersey Weedman, who kind of himself is a libertarian.
Yeah.
But you know what? His racial politics are so against libertarian racial politics, and they're so good. I mean, they're so good. Like he's we disagree on a ton of stuff as far as capitalism goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, when he starts talking about the effect of race on laws and particular cannabis laws, the dude's on point.
Yeah.
And it gives me hope that there's a dialogue there, but they've got some messy shit over there, and they really got to work out the race politics, I think, on the libertarian end.
Oh, they do. I mean, it's just corporate worship. That's really all it is. I mean, anytime you hear about like a libertarian experiment in the third world, it's never anything organic. Like, it's not like a bunch of Guatemalans got together. It's always some rich guy throwing his money, buying up land, playing some weird experiment. It's never organic. Libertarianism really doesn't exist outside of like the white North American middle class.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist in Africa. It doesn't exist anywhere other than here.
Wow, what a credit to us. So now I guess this gets us into some conspiracy. So what are the conditions you think, like in politics, when you have these small little political cults happen where you got little stuff. What are the conditions like in a political body, especially?
Let me take a step back. I would call the Epstein suicide and the surrounding hoopla around it the perfect storm for conspiracy theories. If I was going to create a scenario, if I wanted to create conspiracy theories, I would write with a pen and paper this Epstein, debacle, right? So let's put it all together. There's a couple things we need to add. First of all, Epstein was incredibly powerful, incredibly well connected. I mean, 2 U.S. presidents, Donald Trump and Bill Clinton, members of the British royal family, Prince Andrew, Sarah Ferguson took out a $15,000 loan from him. He's had plane trips and traveled the world with famous celebrities. Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker come to mind. He has connections with famous scientists. Yep. He's met with Stephen Hawking. He's got a creepy obsession with eugenics. I don't know if anybody heard that. He has a compound in New Mexico where he wanted to impregnate 20 women and raise children. Scientists who've met with him, Steven Pinker himself. Steven Pinker, like, people have gone on record to talk about this. He's obsessed with he was obsessed with cryogenics. He wanted to have his head and his penis frozen. I don't know why. Right. So, like, he's a very odd, eccentric. I mean, that doesn't end there.
He didn't want the rest of them. What was he going to do? What was his head and his penis?
The rest wasn't so special.
Remember how you said we don't always have answers? We don't have answers to that one.
You can't.
Hey, look, I'm just painting a picture.
Congratulations, your head and your penis are back to life.
I'm just painting a picture here. Yeah, I mean, his girlfriend for like 20 years was an incredibly wealthy. I mean, I'm hitting it home that this guy was incredibly well connected.
Right. Gotcha.
On top of that, so there's all kinds of questions about his death. Right. There were reports of screams or shrieks. I think the word was shrieks being heard from his jail cell.
Right.
He was supposed to have a cellmate. He didn't. They were supposed to be checking on him every 30 minutes. They didn't.
Scream. You mentioned the screams. A guard was supposed to be on duty. Was not.
There was a guard that was asleep. So there were actually a number of guards, and a lot of the guards that were assigned to him were not actual badge-carrying COs. They were people pulled from other guidance counselors, advisors, teachers that worked in the prison that were brought in overtime. One of the
Boy
people
Scout
assigned
troop, I think, had taken over for
one of the people assigned to watch Epstein was on the 5th day in a row of overtime. The other person was on mandatory overtime. So, painting this picture, right? You have him getting this sweetheart deal. He's using children as sexual predators. There's this picture being painted of this person, right? So why? Like, we talk about suicide. So why would he want to kill himself, right? Why would such a powerful, well-connected man who seemingly got off in 2008, why would he kill himself? And I think the reason is pretty. It's not sexy, but it's pretty simple. if you use Occam's razor. We have a man who's 66 years old who is facing 45 years in prison, right? His list of friends was shrinking. The evidence was mounting against him. The silver spoon was gone, and he knew lightning wasn't going to strike a second time, right? So we have a very powerful man who is in a desperate condition. And why don't we just wrap all that up and add it to the American criminal justice system? This is the same criminal justice system that failed Jameek Lowry, as you were talking about before, failed Sandra Bland, failed Eric Garner. And this is the issue. We're talking about a justice system where hundreds of people die in prison every year from suicide. I'm really not shocked at him committing suicide. This is a man, I feel, who had nothing left.
There's reason for him to commit suicide.
Oh, there's
certainly reason.
What I'm saying is, yeah, that's what it is. I do think he committed suicide. I think it was. That's why I say it was a perfect storm, right? It was this series of issues that led to him killing himself. And in doing the research, I found that it's kind of cryptic, but it really only takes 3 to 5 minutes to hang yourself. So if no one's coming around, they're supposed to come around every 30 minutes and they don't come around for 2-3 hours. Right. That's more than enough time for it to happen. So, I mean, unfortunately, that's where we're at. Right. And that's what I feel like a lot of the conspiracy theorists who tend to be pedantic, they won't get. Right. So what are the conspiracy theories floating now? So I'm sure you've heard of the hashtag Clinton body count. Hashtag Trump body count. Right. So so this is the first thing. Anybody who ever brings up Clinton body count, it's never about overthrowing the Haitian government. It's never about overthrowing Honduran governments. It's never about crappy policies like NAFTA. It's never about bombing Yugoslavia, bombing pharmaceutical plants. It's always not conservative enough.
Incarcerating a whole generation.
Calling people that's not what they mean when they say Clinton body count.
Right.
What they mean are people who have worked, sometimes tangentially, with the Clintons who happen to die.
Yeah.
Right. And my big question is, if the Clintons were going to kill people for these silly reasons, why wouldn't they have killed Monica Lewinsky and Linda Tripp when they had the chance? Right. So they're going to kill all these people, but not the two people who could do the most damage to his presidency. Right. So
do you think? Well, can I play devil's advocate here? I don't play some devil's.
Also, one more point.
Go ahead.
The woman who founded the whole Clinton body count thing, her name was Linda Thompson. I don't know if you know that name.
Yep.
She made a film in the 90s about Waco. This is the same film that Timothy McVeigh was obsessed with, that he would give to his friends before he blew up the Oklahoma City bombing. Right. So these are the roots of the whole Clinton body count thing. It's this weird right-wing obsession with Bill Clinton that doesn't seem to go away. Now, I'm only ever going to defend Bill Clinton when he's being attacked in such a silly way by conservatives. Other than that, have at it, Hodge.
Because there's so many easy ways to attack him.
Like, seriously. Like, Michael Moore said Bill Clinton was the greatest Republican president we've ever had. And that's the truth.
Great analysis. That's a good analysis there. I guess let me throw some gas on this fire a little bit. But is it not, like you mentioned, these atrocities?
I will 100% admit that this is fishy, by the way.
Okay. Well, we'll get back to Epstein a little bit. I personally like beating up Bill Clinton a little bit more. So we'll do that for just a second. It's not to me, right? So you mentioned these atrocities and these horrible, the Haitian, the invasion of Libya. Yeah. I mean, all these things that our stupid government does that Hillary Clinton is engaged in.
Absolutely.
So why is it out of the realm of possibilities that they would do a hit job on somebody who could hurt them?
Because I think they're smarter than that. I think the Clintons are the greatest politicians we'll ever see in our life. I don't think, in terms of being a politician, I'm not saying good people. I'm not saying
in a Machiavellian sense.
I'm saying they know how to play the game. I think Bill Clinton is the best we will ever see, and I think Hillary Clinton is probably the second best we'll ever see.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Hillary Clinton was probably the most qualified person to ever be president.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
I mean, but like, I'm not.
Did you really just say that on my radio show?
I'm not saying I defend her. Yeah,
man, this coffee cup from the coffee house in Edison, New Jersey, is more qualified.
Her policies, no. I'm saying
but she's not
qualified, but that's not qualified.
Former senator. Former was it Secretary of State?
So what?
Like,
no, the point is,
she was a senator. She was a senator that she carpet bagged in on and did nothing for a few years. Then she went and fucked up our foreign policy.
I'm not denying
those aren't qualifications.
But America.
If I go out and build a house and it falls down the next day, you're not going to say he's a great carpenter.
The House of America is falling down. I'm not
because of the Clintons. That makes them not qualified. You forgot, and I didn't get my plug in.
No, but I get what you're saying.
I didn't get my plug in. Hold on 1 second. I would vote for this coffee house coffee, which is delicious. Get them from Edison, New Jersey.
Oh, this is
before
delicious.
I would vote for Clinton for president. And that includes all 4 of them, whatever they're probably running Chelsea.
I didn't vote for him because I wasn't voting in that time period.
That's true.
I always want to know, like, what qualifies Chelsea Clinton to be a politician, though.
She's a Clinton.
Everybody's just putting that out there.
But you're right. I agree with your point that
We're gonna have
if
to work
you,
on
if
that
you
when
had
we
a
go about
manual that said do
qualifications.
this to be the most qualified person to run for
she followed the
president,
game plan, the
she
playbook.
checked everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
She's a disgusting
but
person.
The
but
goal was to be president always.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm under
absolutely.
no
Yeah,
illusions
yeah.
that, look, again, and I said this when I was on the show with Diane, when you show up on BET and you pull hot sauce out of your purse, that's offensive to me. That means you think black people are one-dimensional. When you show up and you start doing the whip and the nay-nay, you think black people are one-dimensional. And that's offensive to me. I mean, Hillary Clinton is a sham. But I'm very much aware of the facade that she has put up.
I think that really a point I'll key in on, which I agree completely with, is that the point was to be president, and I don't like that. And there's a great poem I put it on my Facebook.
It wasn't to be the savior of the world; it was to be president.
Right. I think there's I want a dyke to be president. Have you heard this poem? So it goes, I want a dyke to be president. I want a person who's had AIDS to be president. I want a person who's stood in a welfare line. I want somebody who's had 3 abortions. I want people that have had.
Of our lawmakers are lawyers and businessmen.
Exactly. I want people that have suffered the negative effects of what the Clintons of the world have done to start to take power, because they're the only people that are going to correct it. Yeah. These neoliberal Band-Aid policies are not correcting it. And I think that, we're empowering the right. I think the Clintons are just a perfect example of it.
They're the face of neoliberalism.
Exactly. Getting back to our friend Jeffrey Epstein, who has caused hand cramps around the country by when people say suicide. That's the big epidemic right now. Finger cramping from suicide.
And overnight, I watched my entire friends list. Everybody became a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, Alex, we have to slow down.
Have we created a country where Alex Jones is correct?
No, we have, there's the frogs aren't turning gay. I don't think there's ever an instance where Alex Jones is correct. I think it's safe to say that if he's opening his mouth, he's lying. I mean, again, Alex
gay
Jones,
frogs, really?
in his own custody battle over his children, his lawyer said in his defense that he's playing a character. It's over. He's a fraud.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, people believe him because they just want to be lowlives now. He's been exposed. He's a fraud. It's a joke.
Look, I know we're having a show about this and everything. My take on it is this is just another in a long line of distractions about the real issues of this country. And it's unfortunate. And it's just another thing, bouncing from one thing to the other with the media. And they're going to ride this until there's God knows how long they're going to ride this. But
well, that can be part of a great conspiracy theory now. Right now, we're still firing up a war in Venezuela. We're still firing up a war in Iran. The economy is shit. There's this immigration policy. Dudes want to change the thing on the Statue of Liberty and basically just said today that we're only supposed to let in white people.
Yeah, that's where we're at now.
So this is where we're at in our real politics. And part of this conspiracy can be, let's distract them with Epstein. Let's arrest him, kill him in jail, and make everybody not pay attention to these more important issues which you bring up.
I kind of feel like we're already on a 24-hour news cycle though, and I wouldn't Trump is the master of misdirection. I'm never going to say he's not. He is without a doubt the master of misdirection, but the hoopla surrounding Epstein touches on some real issues. Power, sexual power, criminal justice. You made that comment before. You quoted Dr. King about there being 2 Americas. I don't think anything highlights the fact that there's 2 Americas better than Jeffrey Epstein. Right? This is a guy who got off in 2018, made a plea deal with Acosta, Trump's former labor secretary. Right?
Yes.
This guy is trafficking.
And Acosta resigned subsequently.
Yeah, Acosta is in charge of human trafficking as Secretary of Labor. Who did he give a plea deal to for human trafficking 10 years ago? Jeffrey Epstein.
Star student.
Yeah, I mean, right. I don't know. And here's the other one. I don't know if, we'll feed into the conspiracy. Why not? Jeffrey Epstein never graduated from college, yet he was allowed to teach at the prestigious Dalton School in Manhattan. Right? Does anybody know who by the way, I don't know if anybody doesn't know what a headmaster is. It's a principal at a school for rich kids.
Right.
But does anybody know who the headmaster was at the Dalton Academy who may have hired Jeffrey Epstein? It's a gentleman by the name of Donald Barr, the father of current Attorney General William Barr. So when the Trump administration says that they're going to investigate this, we can't trust them. Whether it's Acosta, whether it's the Attorney General William Barr, whether it's Donald Trump, who, by the way, is quoted as saying, I have the quote here, I have to read it. It said, he said Epstein was, quote, a terrific guy, and, quote, it's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side.
Yeah, I've heard that quote.
Right into that.
So that's Trump. Yeah, so Trump is you know, it's creepy with him. But I mean, like, that's the thing. You can't trust Trump. You can't trust the Trump administration. So hopefully Congress steps up. They can investigate it. But I don't think this is ever going to be a situation where everyone's going to be satisfied. I think there's always going to be questions, and I think that's the frustrating part. Yeah, I mean, did you see, like, they took all those animals off the endangered species?
Yeah, go say hi to wolves now before they're gone.
Yeah. The FBI, it leaked that the FBI was actually going after organizations like Black Lives Matter and not white supremacist organizations.
Right.
Like, they were mid. What was, I can't remember the actual term, but it was in terms of importance. BLM was at the top, and the KKK. Everybody that he calls very fine people, they were mid-level.
Yeah, this was actually happening during the in 2014 during the Trump administration. Yeah. Oh, that's right. That was Obama.
I mean, and this is where it's real is, as you mentioned, the Trump effect on conspiracy theory,
well,
but the Trump
he is the
effect,
conspiracy theorist in chief.
You know, he's having real impact as far as, you know, the way our society is headed and in the direction it's headed in, which is not.
Well, we have an American president
uphill.
that is accusing a former American president of assassinating somebody in prison. Right. I always have to come out and defend, like, the Clintons and Obama. Barack Obama.
We got to work on that.
If he threatened or promoted a conspiracy theory incriminating George W. Bush, there would have been a collective meltdown in this country, including a massive amount of Democrats. Because the one thing Democrats love more than anything is turning on their own. Right? like they will attack the left more vicious than the right.
And there's very few people that enjoy watching that happen as much as me and Tom. I hope you know that. They can't stop. It's part of. So I guess, you know, and the reason why we do bring this up on this show and talk about conspiracies is, one, we love Chris and we love having him on the show. So it's a great chance to invite a good comrade.
Love being here.
Yeah, but it's also, I guess it's that these are distractions, but I hear them, you know, on the left as well as you've blamed the right thing.
I feel like
that's what's disheartening. Yeah.
The conspiracy theories are a distraction. I feel, right. The Clinton body count, Trump. I think if we keep harping on the conspiracy theories, that's the distraction. We need to get to the bottom of this. But there are other issues like the environment. Forget it. Trump's never going to talk about that, unfortunately. Racial issues, you know, sexual assault. He doesn't care about that.
Right.
He's the groper in chief, right? The guy who already admits to groping women is not going to do what he can to protect other women, right? We live in a country where if you are wealthy, powerful, and you have, you know, the right name, the right amount of numbers in your bank account, people will just look the other way when you do terrible things. Epstein was throwing money at all these different organizations. He gave $6.5 million to Harvard. He had Alan Dershowitz, a famous Harvard professor, defending him 10 years ago, you know, trying to, you know, attack these women who were sexually assaulted. It's where we're at now.
It is, man. We are running a little bit out of time, but Tom, we have some time, of course. We have some last minute, so we want to get some plugs in, events. Tom, you got your calendar out? We're going to whip your calendar out. And while you do that, I'm sure I can keep talking and making dead air not appear. But Christian, before we go back to Tom, I want to. You got a few more minutes, man.
I mean, there's a couple more things I want to. I mean, please. Like, so the question is, like, what is really happening? And I don't. Is there a conspiracy going on, right? And my issue is, I don't think there's a conspiracy. I think the problem is it's just the status quo, business as usual. Okay, we have a racist and sexist president. We have a racist criminal justice system.
True that.
We've got legions of racist and sexist lawmakers. What was it? Steve King just came out and made some comments about incest or whatever it is this week. Judges that let
never-ending fountain of
it's disgusting. He's a hive of grossness. But judges that let rapists off almost monthly. Right. Every month there's either some white rapist. Absolutely. Mitch McConnell, the greatest obstructionist of our time. What is Jeffrey Epstein if he's not a grown-up Brock Turner? Right. A life without consequences, a life of privilege, a life of committing crimes and getting off. We want to know where the monsters are coming from. We're creating the monsters here. And we have a system that perpetuates it. Right. We want to, you know, demonize some woman from El Salvador bringing her kids. She's the bad guy. Some out of work school teacher from Guatemala, they're the bad guy. But the businesses exploiting them, the individuals, you know, the cabal of sexual assault that Epstein set up, that guy gets to walk. Eric Garner gets choked out for selling cigarettes. Jameek Lowry gets murdered in prison. This guy, you know, he gets to get away for 10 years. And it was the Miami Herald that actually was his undoing. It wasn't some false, weird claim by conspiracy theorists.
Right.
It was journalism and it was research that brought him down. It wasn't somebody making some claim and then waiting for things to unfold. And that's the difference between conspiracy theories and journalism and scholarship. One is doing research and reaching a conclusion. The other one is making a statement and hoping that everything unfolds the way you wanted.
Yeah, Miami Herald does a lot of good things, especially with Haiti. I follow the rug in Haiti quite a bit. Yeah, you don't need conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
the truth is right out.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, the truth is out there. I mean, we live in a rigged system, and I'm not going to say that that's not real. I mean, I'm an
Don't use
anti-capitalist.
X-Files lines to tell people not to believe in conspiracy.
The truth is out there.
I never watched it, so
That was the tagline.
But I honestly like touching on the X-Files, and I brought this up when I was on Diane's.
I love that show, man.
Every time they show like the bad guys on X-Files, it's always a bunch of men in a smoky room sitting around pulling the strings. That's not how power works in this country, right? You could be a kingmaker in New Jersey. That power doesn't necessarily extend to New York. You could be, you could be Jeff Bezos. You could be the guy that owns Facebook. I'm forgetting his name right now. That gives you a lot of power in one area. That power doesn't necessarily extend anywhere else, right? And then there are other industries, other billionaires, other interests that will combat you. That's why we have two political parties.
That's why we need more.
That's why we need more.
That's why we need more.
A lot more.
Tom, what's going on in the calendar, man? Tell us where we got to be and when we got to be there. Anything?
Wow, we got a lot going on.
All right.
Actually, there's a great organization that's called Black Alliance for Peace that's headed up by Usamu Baraka, a good friend of ours,
Yes.
a Green and a longtime activist. And this is just a call, but there's a call tomorrow night that you can still get on if you RSVP. It's on Patreon or Maestro Conference, rather. And that's at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. As far as actual events, now, Craig Caetano, who's a co-chair of the Green Party, is having a tag and sip party Friday night. And you can still get tickets for that, I hear. He's still got a couple spots he can shoo you in. And that is on Facebook, on Craig's page. Craig Caetano is running for ward council in Hawthorne. And then Saturday, there is an XR art build, which is at the Unitarian Church in East Brunswick on Tice's Lane. And we had our XR meeting there on Sunday. And Reverend Karen there, great activist. She's really into XR. It's a great space, and we're really looking forward to using that space. And that's what's on the horizon right now, Brian. A lot more to come, but
that's great, man, and I appreciate all your hard work. I appreciate all the activists around the state of New Jersey who give us a call, fill us in on their work. We got busy weeks coming up, so make sure to mark your calendars for these events. Get out and stream them and let us know about them so we can get them out there for you. Thanks a lot. We will be back here next Wednesday with Kason Little. Diane Moxley will be returning. If you can contribute, please visit www.njrevolutionradio.com. Thanks a lot for joining me tonight, guys.
Thanks for having me, Brian.